Welcome to my YouTube channel Learn Rich Lab. Today we are going to discuss about tribal movements in India. Tribal communities fought to save their land, water and resources from zamindars. For detailed
First of all, we will discuss about the introduction, then phases of tribal movements, important tribal movements, weaknesses of tribal movements and practice questions. So first of all, let's have a look at the brief introduction of the topic. As the British Empire extended its fold in the Indian subcontinent, the forests were also subject to exploitative policies of the colonial government. The colonial administration interrupted the age-old relationship of tribals and nature. The traditional tribal values and beliefs were also challenged, which antagonized the local tribal population, and various tribal movements were organized against the British. Now moving on to phases of tribal movements. Tribal movements are categorized in mainly three parts: first phase, second phase and third phase. These phases also reflect the evolution of tribal movement. As initially these movements were initiated for a region-specific or group-specific issue. Later these movements were aligned with the national movement and their social base also expanded. First phase from 1795 to 1860. This was the initial phase of tribal movement which coincides with the emergence, growth and establishment of the British Empire. These movements began mainly due to the policies introduced by Britishers which interfered in the traditional practices of the tribal population. The British administration also tried to modify the structure of the tribal society which antagonized the natives. Also during this phase, the leaders came mainly from the upper strata of the tribal population. The most significant tribal uprisings at this time were the Coal Revolt, Khond Rebellion, Santhal Uprising and early Munda Uprising. Second phase, 1860 to 1920. During this phase, the tribal movement slowly inched towards proximity with peasant movements and nationalism. In this phase, the leadership came from the lower strata and was not limited to the upper sections of the tribal groups. It includes the Koya Rebellion and the Birsa Munda-led Munda Uprising. Third phase, 1920 to 1947. The third phase of the movement appears to be the most mature of the three phases. During this phase, the tribal movements showed an open tendency to work in association with the national movement. The leadership of this phase was mainly derived from educated tribals and the Gandhian social workers. This phase comprises the Chenchu tribal movement, the Rampa Rebellion and the Tana Bhagat or Oraon movement. Now moving on to important tribal movements. First is Pahadiya Revolt. It was a revolt in the 1770s led by the tribals in the hilly region of Rajmahal jungles in the present-day Jharkhand. Tilka Manjhi or Jabra Pahadiya was the first Adivasi leader to take up arms against the British. He organized the Adivasi armed group to fight against the resource-grabbing, exploitation and British tyranny. However, he was caught and hanged by the British. Santhal Revolt. Santhal Rebellion of 1855 to 1856 is believed to be one of the most serious challenges faced by the British. The rebellion was organized against the British landlords and moneylenders or traders, that is Dikus. The exploitative land revenue policies, exorbitant rates of interest, deprivation of property, abuse and violence were some of the main grievances of the tribals. Thus, end this exploitation in June 1855, Sidhu and Kanhu gave a call of rebellion. The Santhal rebellion continued for a few months and threatened the imperial control in the region. The Santhal rebellion was ruthlessly suppressed after Sidhu and Kanhu were captured and killed. Khond Revolt. The Khond Uprising took place in Odisha in 1846 and 1855. The main reasons behind the revolt were the land revenue policies of the British, the oppression by the landlords and the moneylenders, and the restrictions imposed on tribe. The Khond people were led by Chakra Bisoi, and in the later stage, it was led by Radhakrishna Dandasena. Bhil Uprising. The Bhil tribal groups lived in the Western Ghats with their strongholds in Khandesh region. In 1818, the occupation of the Khandesh by the British coupled with agrarian hardship aroused the suspicious among the Bhil community, which resulted in revolt. However, the revolt was ruthlessly crushed by the Britishers. Koya Revolt. It occurred in 1879 to 1880 in the eastern Godavari tract of Andhra Pradesh and also affected some portions of Malkangiri districts in Odisha. The 1879-1880 rebellion was led by Toma Sora. It reflected problems like erosion of customary forest rights, police exactions, exploitation by moneylenders, etc. Munda Rebellion. This rebellion was led by Birsa Munda in the south of Ranchi in the year 1899. This uprising is also known as Ulgulan Revolt, which means Great Commotion. The main causes of the rebellion were the policies and practices of British colonizers, zamindars and missionaries. The land owned by the Mundas was seized and they were forced to work as landless laborers in the fields of jagirdars and zamindars. Also, large forest areas were designated as protected forest by the British government and the Mundas lost their rights to these lands. After the death of Birsa Munda, the revolt was subsequently crushed. However, the revolt forced the British to introduce reforms and as a result, Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act was passed.
So guys, don't forget to see the description of this video, and if you like this video, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.